Morticians. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of this incredible podcast. I know you could have chosen to be anywhere, but today you decided to be with us, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Well, first and foremost, I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to the sponsors of today's video, Prevail Memorial Live Streaming. If you and your families need live streaming that's simplified and redefined, check them out at prevail.org. Again, if you and your families need live streaming that's simplified and redefined, check them out at prevail.org. Let's jump right into today's topic and episode. I think it's going to change your perspective, change your mind, and most of all, make an impact in your community. The title of today's episode is You Don't Have to Look the Part to Be the Part. You don't have to look the part to be the part. Stick with me. It's going to be good. In funeral services, people sometimes have an image in their head of what a funeral director, what an owner, what an embalmer, what a quote unquote leader is supposed to look like. Being young can make people question your experience before you even speak. I want to show you why your preparation, your professionalism, and the way you carry yourself speaks for you and how they speak for you and how they can make you look the part and be the part even when the people around you suspect otherwise. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like people were wondering, who is this young person? They hear you talk about funeral services as a professional, as a profession, and how heavily built it is on tradition, which is an important thing to remember in this profession because we are a tradition-based industry. When you're younger, people may assume you're the assistant, the apprentice, or the inexperienced person in the room. But the key line in that is sometimes you don't look like what people expected. But that doesn't mean you don't belong there. I'm going to say it one more time. Sometimes you don't look like what people expected, but that doesn't mean you don't belong there. I've had this kind of thing happen to me on numerous occasions. People asking, are you a funeral director? How long have you been doing this? One of the funniest stories I remember is one lady, one time she asked me during the arrangement conference, she said, "Are you 12? I was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not 12. I'm a licensed funeral director." And she said, "Oh, okay. So just that, although I look young, I'm qualified. I deserve to be in the room. I have the credentials needed to be able to take care of you effectively and efficiently." Those are important key steps in who we are and why we do what we do. And I want you to remember, stop trying to prove yourself. Early in your career, it's easy to feel like you're constantly having to prove that you deserve the position that you're in. You start explaining your credentials, your experience, your accomplishments. But over time, you're going to learn that confidence doesn't require an announcement. You don't have to walk into every room explaining why you deserve a seat. Sit down and do the work. As you prepare yourself, as you grow, that creates in itself its own form of confidence. Confidence isn't just a personality. You have to know the laws of your state and the laws of the federal government that they have set aside for funeral services, the funeral rule. You have to know your families. You have to know your products and your services. Know how to communicate with families during difficult moments. And always continue to learn from older funeral professionals. You can never go wrong in that because trust me, you're going to run into things that you don't know, that you don't understand, that you didn't expect to happen. And you might be the youngest person in the room, but you don't have to be the least prepared. You might be the youngest person in the room, but you don't have to be the least prepared. Always be prepared because we never know what can happen and what can come up. But always remember, it's so important to respect the traditions of funeral services without becoming too trapped and obsessed with it. The older generation built much of the profession we have today, undeniably. Young funeral professionals should learn from them rather than automatically rejecting their traditions. Every generation has a responsibility to move funeral services forward, which is what we do with the Millennial Mortician Podcast every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Technology, social media, personalization, new approaches to arrangements are changing consumer expectations are part of that. The fact that the consumer is changing is a part of the change in the tradition and the breaking from some certain traditions based off consumer wants and needs. Honor what built the profession, hands down, but don't be afraid to help build what comes next. Let the families and the people around you in your community decide whether you are good. At the end of the day, age doesn't serve a family. Competence and compassion does. Did you listen? Did you communicate? Did you handle their loved ones with dignity? Did you make an overwhelming process feel easier? That's what families remember about you. Families don't need to look at your experience. They need to experience your professionalism. That's what they want to feel. They don't need to look at you and say, he doesn't look experienced. They need to experience all the professionalism, all the credentials, all the knowledge and wisdom that you have applied to them. And remember, when we grow together, lives change and are impacted. And we have to remember that although you don't look the part, you have to become the part. Speak directly to apprentices, mortuary students, and young licensed professionals. Do not rush your journey trying to appear older or more established. Learn, ask questions, make connections, take correction, keep showing up. And eventually, people who question whether you belong will start asking for your expertise. You don't have to look the part to be the part. Do the work, respect the profession, serve families well, and let your reputation introduce you. Well, guys, I'm your host, Jaden Fowlkes. This is the Millennial Mortician Podcast, a podcast that engraves. And I hope it engraved you and your families in the weeks and months to come. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hope this episode changed your perspective. Don't look the part, be the part.